Welcome, amazing agents and investors nationwide. Today is Thursday, February 20th, 2020, and this is Mastermind call number 266. A little bit of housekeeping, guys. We're not real sure why, but we've had a few people, we've had a lot of background noise on the last couple calls. For some reason, one or two of you every month are coming on as an admin. If I notice it, I'm going to mute you out. It's nothing disrespectful. We're just trying to keep the noise down. And if you do want to actively participate, just hit *6 and then hit 1 like everybody else, and you will get brought into the queue. Little more housekeeping. I want to congratulate Bill Gross was our winner of the week. And I know our first caller in the queue is Aileen. She was a recent winner of the week. We had it happen again. Whoever's in Houston, Texas, I'm going to mute you out. We'll have to call the admins and see why that's happening. But it seems like there's always one person who's in the queue unintentionally making a lot of noise. But we'll get to the bottom of it. In the meantime, I'll be the enforcer. Partners, anything you want to talk about before we get started?
We've got Probate Mastery. February Mastery starts on Monday at 2 p.m. You probably have an email. There's some posts in All the Leads Mastermind Facebook group. So last month we sold out, and a lot of that happened on the last day. So if you've been waiting on Mastery, be sure to go to probatemastery.com or one of our social media channels and click in and get signed up.
Right, and if they get shut out, they can probably go to Ticketmaster and pay a scalper inflated prices for the ticket. Are they reselling on the open market?
Might be able to pay one of our. I thought about that last month. I was like, I wonder what the alumni members would sell their seat for.
All right, we might be getting carried away. It's good, but hey, you never know. It is a very. All kidding aside, guys, it is a very in-demand class, and it never continues to amaze us how the people that take Mastery seem to be much more successful, and they stay around a lot longer. So don't get shut out. Sign up for that as soon as possible. Tim, anything you want to add before we get started?
No, sir. I have nothing to add today other than it's a great month, and people are, we were just hearing a lot of real interesting, good stories, particularly about people that are hearing from stuff they did, several months ago, and, it's kind of stuff that's coming out of the woodwork again right now, where I think as spring begins to dawn in certain areas, and those of you who are getting snowed on today, I apologize, but I think that people are starting to decide to make decisions about moving property that they may have been sitting on through the colder weather and thinking they couldn't do anything about it. So it's a good time to get back in touch with people that you haven't talked to for a while, and I urge you to do that. They're going to want to get rid of property that they've been sitting on, or the tax bills came and all that sort of stuff. So the motivation will ramp up as the weather warms.
And, Tim, I want to touch on something. Sometimes, we don't avoid mentioning anything on these calls, but it always amazes us as we go into the summer months every year. I mean, it's not a ton of people, but we always have subscribers say they want to take a few months off so they can work with all of their buyers, and that just always absolutely amazes us. You can do both. So before, if you are still working buyers, before you get overwhelmed with the buyers, take some proactive action, get some listings, in the hopper, so you can do both this summer. You don't have to. It should never be an either or. I love buy. I mean, well, I be honest. My first 8 years in the business, I worked nothing with buyers, and then nothing but buyers. Once I started taking listings, I don't think I ever put another buyer in my car. It's just so much more efficient to work the listing end of the transaction. So, don't get yourself in that trap where you get overwhelmed this summer and you have to put this on pause. Start making the calls, gear up now, and prevent that from happening.
Yeah, that's a good
anyway.
And if you find yourself complaining about multiple offers and your buyers getting beat out, imagine if you just weren't spending that time working with that buyer. You were spending those 30, 40 hours trying to find the right listing for yourself, not for your buyer. Like the average listing in my business takes 28 hours, the average buyer takes 28 hours, and I only show them 2 houses. But end to end, it still takes 28 hours. The listing in my business takes 7 hours. So you get ultimate leverage, especially in an environment like this. So if there's anyone on this call listening thinking, man, I wish I could get into listings, like imagine how much time you have to prospect for listings if you quit chasing the unicorn house that your buyer's looking for. You get at least 10 to 1 leverage.
Yeah, it's a great point. And just focus on your pipeline. That's the only, keep it simple and keep that in your mind. Am I building my pipeline today? Am I doing the things I need to do to keep my pipeline full of that stuff? And, these are all good points to begin with. So anyway, that was my only point, is that this is the time where there's some artificial help coming. As the weather gets warm, things happen where people, were sitting on it through the winter and decided they would do something about it as spring comes. You can help kick spring into action earlier by taking some action, either send them another letter, make another phone call, do the things you need to do to reach out to those people and generate that business, because some people have been literally, I promise you, sitting on a house that they need to move now that they weren't moving when you tried to deal with them the first time. So just keep that in your head. Work on that pipeline.
Amen. First up this week, about an hour ago, I was doing a call with Aileen, and I asked her to come on the call. Aileen, I'm going to pick you first because I know you've got an appointment to go to. Aileen, you are up.
Thank you, Jim. Hi. Yes, so when we were speaking on our call earlier, I was speaking to you about listing presentations. So what I'm finding is that I'm getting more in front of the PR, and just early this week, I was having a conversation at a listing appointment, and I found myself a little bit stuck, like not having a proper listing presentation. I don't always go by the flow. I kind of go based on what's in front of me to base what I need to do. But I thought, like, since I'm putting a lot of my business towards probate, that it would be beneficial to have a more tailored listing presentation. So I just kind of wanted to ask about what would be the best ways, what's just some thoughts about that.
So this is very personal to me, but I show you in Probate Mastery the last 30 or 40 minutes. I show you exactly how I do the face-to-face appointment. Not as a realtor, not as an investor. I let it all come together in the last 3 to 4 minutes. And the whole strategy comes together, setting a target date as an anchor and bringing it right back to the paper, and you hand them the blue pen. It's very personal to me. I've tried everything. I've tried nice print collateral, iPad presentations, more professional things. What works best for me is to not take anything. Like there's 3 simple Word documents, or like 3 simple documents. One is the seller net sheet that runs 3 scenarios side by side. The other is a simple marketing outline that I use to throw myself under the bus in a humorous way, so I don't have to, explain how I do what I do. The other is a market absorption analysis. So I take 2 years of statistical data from MLS and do a market absorption analysis. You can also use a CMA. If you're doing this well, you won't even have to talk about that. It's just there if you need it. And then the other side of the folder, there's a purchase agreement and a listing agreement. And that's it. I focus on eye contact and actual rapport, and I don't have a list of vendors. I don't have things to leave behind. If you want access to my service, there's one way, through my pupils. Like you shake my hand, look at me, and we'll do business together. And I found that to be I'm not a high pressure salesperson, but my close ratio went to 100% when I started doing that, and I took away all the distractions. So many people get wrapped up in, well, what should my logo look like? And what about the brochure? And what about the business card? And the hell with all that. This is about human connection. They want to feel like they're connected with a human. They want to do business with a human. And the more professional you get, the more of that collateral that you put out front, the more distracted they are, and the more room for objections I've found that I created. So I really pulled back on these appointments. It is really, really simple, and I just focus on connecting with the people more than anything, and then I bring it all together in the very end. But you don't need, a fancy listing presentation or or, you don't really need. The biggest thing that you should probably change about your current listing presentation is make it, the property tour is 10 to 15 minutes. The conversation is 25 to 45 minutes. Put a lockbox on and you're out of there. I always try to do a one-stop listing or a one-stop acquisition and be out in less than an hour.
Right.
So if you want to see that in long form, it's included in every mastery class. I kind of throw it on as a bonus and show you exactly, including a lot of little tips and tricks that I use. Like, for example, there's a certain way that I present a single business card to a group that will actually show me who has authority. If they're not the personal representative that I set the appointment with, I have little ways to indicate who thinks they have social authority so I can build rapport with the right people before we get into the serious part of the conversation. And I kind of just show you every little psychological trick that I've learned and that makes this really smooth. It's a lot less about marketing material than it is about, just psychology and how you connect with these people quickly.
Wow. Okay. And you said that that's on the, I can find that on the mastery?
It's in session 3 of Probate Mastery. Towards
Okay.
it right before, right. It's the last part before we go into Q&A, so it's probably like 2 hours in.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've done it, so okay, so I definitely will look back at that. And I really like what you said. That really speaks to me a lot. I always think that I'm missing something because that's also not my normal go-to, is to have like a big glossy portfolio. And I just wanted, kind of to check in and just get some thoughts. So that just affirms. And a quick question just to clarify on the seller net sheet. So you're coming in with some scenarios of what you think pricing will be even before you've seen the house.
Yeah, and that's why I go deeper. If you've heard me role play the initial conversation, that typically runs about 15 minutes. Once I get the appointment, I've got another 10 minutes or so of questions. And I'll teach you this in session 3 as well. But it's, focus on, is there real estate? Is it for sale? Get the appointment, and then learn about the house, then learn about the finances, then kind of insulate yourself. And then with all the information you've gotten from that, like the condition of the property, their intent, and there's ways that I ask the questions that are better than like, what would you say the property condition is? I've found a way to kind of get them in a buyer's mindset and really be critical of their own house. So I pretty much know what I'm walking into, especially after doing the market absorption analysis. Now, it's not 100%. What I kind of do is I can take a blank net sheet and one that's already filled out, or I can just scribble on the one that's already pre-filled. But once I get there, I'm pretty much within a 20%, like 10% plus minus. I know about a 20% range of exactly what the house will be worth, because I know my market well. I've been I've been in thousands of houses here. So once I get there, I can very quickly kind of scope out the work, throw a quick repair estimate to it, adjust the net sheet if needed. A lot of times I don't even need to because they're not going to be making repairs, and I can use it that way.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. Well, I just went on an appointment, and as I was, I was working a lot of different angles to finally get the appointment. So then when I got the appointment, I said to you, and then I didn't ask like pre-qualifying questions and get more details about the house, which would have definitely helped me more in the appointment had I done that. So, but I still have, reasons to continue to contact. I don't know how many other questions are in the queue right now. If I have an opportunity to ask a second part to my question, I don't want to take up too much time.
No, go ahead.
No, you're okay. We only have 3 more in the queue. Go ahead. Do a follow-up.
Okay, great. So another objection that kind of came up from this listing presentation was, that they're going to be interviewing other agents. So I followed up by asking, what is it that you're looking for in an agent? What's important to you? And it did come back as what I thought, which was, we just need somebody to help us to take care of everything. The house is loaded with stuff, and one of them lives in nearby, but in a different house, and the other one is out of state. So when you're met with that objection of we want to just interview at least 2 more agents, I just wanted to, kind of get your feedback on how you handle that.
Let's get ready to role play. I think the best way to handle this is let's just jump into a role play if you're willing.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so you got the objection when you asked for the appointment, right?
So this was actually, I did know about the objection before I got the appointment. Yeah.
Well, just wherever they hit you with the objection, just start there. So I'm assuming it's when you said, oh, well, it starts with a quick conversation. Would Friday be a good time for us to sit down and talk?
Yes, so actually, if we could, this was actually at the appointment.
I see.
She said, yeah, this was actually at the appointment, so it was towards the end, and I, was ready to wrap it up, and she said, okay, well, at this point, they're overwhelmed by everything, by all the stuff, and then she said, so we want to still, we're going to be meeting with about a couple more agents, and then we're going to, make a decision on what to do, move forward. And their time frame was a little bit out more, just because of their ability to be local.
Did you have a listening agreement with you?
Yes, I did.
Did you have it out?
No.
Why not?
I'm not sure. I guess when I feel like when it's getting more ready to seem like they're going to be ready to sign, that's when I pull it out.
Can you see how having an exclusive right to represent seller agreement sitting on the table the entire time could be your best assumptive close?
Yes, I could. Absolutely.
Subconsciously, you're saying, I'm here to do business. So if you had done that, when they say, oh, well, actually, we're going to interview 5 more agents. Okay, great. Help me understand why you don't think I'm the one. Like, what do you think you're going to find that you didn't hear here today? Because the average real estate agent does 4 deals a year and has never done a probate and doesn't have a team of people. We're willing to step up and go well above the scope of a real estate agent and only charge you the commission, nothing additional. So I'm really certain that those folks aren't going to have nearly what we've discussed today. And from where I sit, it seems like X is your best bet. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
If you can get an entire team of people versus one person for the same price, what's stopping you from moving forward today? Is it a friend or family that you need to meet with?
Yeah.
And
you know what?
Usually what will happen when you put a little bit of pressure on people like that, they'll sing like canaries. And they'll be like, oh, but, and they'll start apologizing. And that's when you slide the paper over and hand them a blue pen.
Mm-hmm. So first and foremost, it's most important to sit like at a dining room table or a kitchen table rather than the living room where it's.
I really like kitchen counters because
yeah.
you're standing.
I remember hearing you say that.
Yeah. So if you can stand on the point of an island or even on in line on the counter, and just kind of take a step back. That way you're never straight across from them. It's not an adversarial position. You're all kind of in parallel working on the same level, right? And whoever I indicated as having the most social authority, I'll open the folder with either the purchase agreement or the listing agreement, whichever I think is most likely to be used, and I'll slide it over in front of that person as if I'm clearing my workspace. So I'm very discreetly doing this. But the entire time we're talking, anytime their eyes glance down, what are they looking at? Purchase and sale agreement or exclusive right to represent sellers. And and then at the very end, I'll say, okay, so I'll use the target date as an anchor. And I'll say, all right, so based on your perfect scenario, we would be done with this on this day. In order for that to happen, we need to do these, we need to have it on MLS under contract on this date, MLS on this date, photography on this date, staging on this date, clean out on this date, estate sale on this date, and it all starts right here. I've got a lockbox in the car. If you guys just sign that, I'll be right back. And when you come back, it's oftentimes signed, and then you can fill the price in, or you don't have to use the lockbox trick. But if you take a leadership role and show them what you believe is best for them, if they trust you, they're going to follow. If you don't, if you go in weaker than that and you don't try to close, then they're gonna revert to those deferral patterns. Like, oh, okay, we're gonna talk it over with the family. Okay, we're gonna meet with 3 or 4 more agents, and they don't have a real reason to do that. But you haven't led them to the desired outcome you wanted, which is in their best interest. So it's really on you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the first thing I heard when you said is we have a team, and I love that because I've been using the word resources. Like, I have resources that will help you in X, Y, and Z and all, estate, clean out, plumber, like whatever it is, as opposed to I'm coming on with an entire team is so much more, powerful.
So the statement I like is, I built a team of people right here in Roanoke specifically to help families in your situation. And that seems to be what people respond best to.
Yes. Exactly. So, because the thing that stood out for me with this particular appointment, which is exactly the majority of people that are in this situation, is that they're so overwhelmed, and I validate that they're, I get it that you're overwhelmed. It's daunting, and life doesn't stop when you've got to deal with this situation. So I validate them, and what she said to me is, we just need the help. Like, we need somebody to get us out, and I know that I'm the right person to help them. I fail to communicate that in a like you said, in a leadership way. But I'll go back.
Okay, you have.
And yeah, I still have an opportunity to go back and and get back in front of them.
Right, and a good way to do that, if they spend, you said they weren't in a hurry, they're gonna, they've got time. You can always, say, listen, I know you guys said you're not in a hurry, but one of the biggest reasons I do this, I want to help families reduce stress, but most importantly, retain equity. So every day that the property sits, you have insurance costs, you have taxes, you have potentially mortgages, whatever, maintenance costs. So is it more important to you guys that you save more money for the estate, or that you get or that you can move through it at a comfortable pace? And that wasn't too strong, but if you can show them how it's costing, because a lot of times, like, and as soon as I say this, you all think of examples outside of probate. People establish patterns of behavior that don't really make sense. Have you ever been to a networking event where someone says, oh, hey, how are you? Where are you from? What do you do? They're just bullshit questions that we've been conditioned to ask, right? Like, well, you walk up to somebody at a networking event and go, hey, what really lights you up in life? And you can see their wires cross because they've established these patterns. It's no different in real estate. People have patterns of how they deal with people, and if they perceive you as a really successful professional, a lot of people are intimidated by that, and they'll go back into these patterns. But if they perceive you as a leader who's really acting in their best interest, they'll follow you like little puppies.
Yep. Yeah. I could
All right.
see that.
Great questions.
Thank you.
Hey, Eileen, we have a full queue, but I did want to just add one more thing, because you touched on something really interesting, and I think many agents and investors have a tendency to over-present. When I was an agent, I pretty much built my career on FSBOs and expireds, and then I got into coaching personally, and then I started coaching agents. And one thing they taught us to do that it will require a little courage initially, but once you set an appointment, always call back before the appointment. I used to always call back before the appointment and say, hey, Aileen, I just want to confirm our appointment today at 3 o'clock. And I just had a quick question for you. When I come out today at 3, if you're comfortable with what I have to say and you're confident I can get the home sold, are you planning on listing the home with me today? Or are you ready to put the home on the market? Just ask them. When I started doing that, I was really surprised. Number one, I was surprised how many people said, well, yeah, I wouldn't be having you out otherwise. Man, does that cut down on the length of your listing presentation where they've already told you they're going to list with you? I also got legitimate objections that had never come up before. Stuff like, well, yeah, as soon as I find out if my husband's job transfer is going through. next year. So don't be afraid to pre-qualify that appointment, or, it doesn't even have to be the next day. It could be once you've set the appointment before you hang up. Try to pre-qualify it a little bit stronger and get a stronger commitment. And the more committed they are, really, the less time you have to spend selling yourself, the more time you can, like Chad said, really communicate with them. Make sense?
I totally agree. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right, awesome.
And I'll throw one other thing in there, because it's really just harping on what Chad said. I just want to hammer it a little harder, and that is this, that every time you say the word we, you're building yourself larger in their eyes, because now they know they're not just dealing with a person. You've talked about building a team and all that. The more you add we into that discussion that you have with them, the more you're talking proudly about something you've already done. And part of what Chad is talking about is the subtle things that give people cues to make you look better, look stronger, and all you just have to remember are those simple things. Just always refer to yourself in a bigger picture as a we. If you can do that, it'll help.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, get off to your appointment. Thanks for participating. Okay. Go ahead, Jim.
We're never gonna let this one go. But as far as the we statements go, when you're in the appointment, you should be associating yourself with them and tying that together as we statements. So when we get the house under contract, when we are at the closing attorney's office, and those are all really, really subtle assumptive closes. If they don't flinch with body language or they don't verbally object, you've already got the deal. And there's a lot of little cues like that I teach in Mastery that you don't have to. I've never asked for a listing, ever. I slide a paper across the table, or I hand them a pen because they've already pulled it out of the folder. And it's just a series of these little tiny things that you do that really makes this just, you pretty much get 100% of the appointments you go on when you do it that way.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Perfect. Hey, partners, for some reason, I don't know what's going on, but the queue will not let me go to the next person. I've never had this happen before. Are either of you in the website?
No, but you can just click on an individual and bring it up rather than doing it. Just click on it on the right-hand side. It won't work.
I think I'm
in. 5 times. Nope. Oh, you're in, John? Okay. For some reason, the display didn't move up. All right. Well, it worked. It just didn't tell me that it worked. You're up next, John.
Hey, how is everybody?
Doing great. How about you?
Fabulous in every way. Listen, I had my first block of calls, which I've been anticipating for 2 or 3 months. Very interesting. I knew that, the first round of calls on a new thing, it would be a little bit clunky. So, but I was pleasantly surprised. I just want to tell you what happened, and then a couple things I would like some guidance on. So basically, the calls went as expected. I had 74 leads that I ran through. By the way, I used Prospect Boss. I found it to be a very clunky interface, and for the 20 more bucks a month, I'm going to be switching over to Mojo Dialer. I didn't like it, the way you keep notes, and it just seemed real clunky. Anyway, went through the calls, lots and lots, which I expected, of got everything handled, click, not a chance to say a word, just gone. Oh, well, that's life in the big city. Had several nice conversations, and I was a little bit surprised because I thought these leads would be fresher, but I had probably 5 or 6 out of, 75 that, we had the property on the market, it's sold, everything's done already. So I was, but they're real nice people to talk to. Anyway, the hang-ups was interesting to me. Now, I did notice, because since my website for my company and through you guys is brand spanking new, there was 0 traffic on it. So I tracked that stuff. I noticed that immediately after the call, I did start getting traffic to the website. I noticed that my LinkedIn views of your profile, because I got the little LinkedIn icon on the site, went up 70 in the last week. So it's obvious that people got those letters and went to the website and started clicking around, but interestingly enough, I didn't get a single call or a single web contact form. But I know they were looking around. So specific questions with respect to the calls themselves. I did find one lead that the guy was completely didn't know what I was talking about. And I actually did a screenshot of the lead that came in. I said, and he gave me his email address. I sent it to him, and we discussed, here's the probate date, sign the probate. He said, this is somebody else. Anyway, it was not him, but it showed up. It had him, it had his wife, it had all of people connected with him, but he didn't know this person. Nobody in his family knew who they were. They weren't personal reps, so it did pull one file.
Understand that we're blending public record data with our skip trace data. So the phone numbers that show up under personal representative, that's derived off of public data. Oftentimes when you're in densely populated areas with common names like John Smith, there is a chance we grab the wrong John Smith and you call the wrong John Smith. So yeah. If people get freaked out, but the first thing you should ask is, did a Harry Smith pass away recently that you're aware of? Oh, okay, I must have gotten the wrong John Smith. Sorry to bother you. And that way they're not looking to be, sometimes hey guys, people get excited.
Hey, Chad, excuse the interruption. My internet is down. Tim, can you grab the board and handle the rest of the calls? Are you in front of a computer? Tim?
Yeah, I'll go do it.
All right, thank you. Yeah, my internet's down. I don't know how my voice over phone is still working, but sorry to interrupt you. Carry on, guys. Go ahead.
It was a very amiable call and no problem, but 1 out of 75, big deal. Had several people that said, hey, a couple I could think of, they were the wives of a husband that passed. No, I'm keeping the house. I'm not selling anything, but thanks for the call. In general, the calls were, nobody was nasty. Either they hung up and didn't let you say anything, or we had a nice conversation. So I had one that seemed like it would be something. I did my calls on Tuesday, like I'm supposed to by MIT. She said, call me back Thursday, called her back today. Her mom is the one who is actually the PR, but I'm talking with the daughter who's really being the PR for the mom. Anyway, she said, look, I talked to my mom. The whole setup was I wanted to go out and do a walkthrough of the house. And I talked to my mom, and she really wants this lady from church that she knows who's in real estate, la, 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 la. She's going out next week. I said, okay, there's nothing wrong with two opinions. I just hope this lady knows probate. She's been through it because it's a whole different animal. I'm going to follow up with you next week, and maybe I'll come out too. So anyway, so out of 75, whole lot of hang-ups. One potential still kind of got shut down, but I'm not going to leave it be. Here's the question. What's the timeline? Those people that hang up on me, I'm not crossing them off the list. They're just in a mood and they didn't want to talk at the moment. I get that. So I want to continue to call them. The question is, I'm not going to call them, every day. What is a callback cycle that makes sense for those people that hung up on you, but you're still going to call them back? When should I call?
5 seconds.
Oh, you're in that school that you call back immediately and say we must have been disconnected?
Yep, because it's different, and it gets them back on their heels. So the reason they're doing that to you is because somebody bought a $50 course and is going straight for the real estate, throwing out offers on the phone, and they've given you the reputation of the last 5 idiots they've spoken to. So they don't even give you a chance. You're not even having real engagement. And if someone hangs up on you that abruptly, then chances are they've been getting a lot of pressure just call back and be like, hey, I'm not sure what happened, but we got disconnected. What I was about to say is 9 out of 10 of my best clients have it handled when I first talk to them because they don't know what they don't know, and they don't know there's a service in the community like mine. And if they try to interrupt you, plow through it. You are a verbal bulldozer at this point. And you'll be surprised how many of those you can turn around. If you, and you know, they might hang up on you again, and just note that down, like double hang up. But people are, you know, it works. It's effective to just tell a little white lie and hang up on someone. Most people aren't going to call back, right? So if you really want to differentiate yourself and say, oh, you know, we got disconnected. What I was just about to say, don't leave any space. I oftentimes tell you to leave space. This is where silence can be your enemy. So just say, not sure what happened there. And how many, like when a call gets disconnected for real, it's so frustrating. People spend 30 seconds trying to figure out what happened. And it's like, let's just get back to our conversation, right? So instead of letting them go, well, like don't let them give you an excuse or anything. Just plow through it and get through it and jump right back in there and end with an open-ended emotional question. Like, you know, what I was about to say is 9 out of my 10 best clients said the same thing when we first talked. They felt like it was just going to be really easy. What they found, it was actually a lot different. And 2 months in, they really, really needed our help. So that's why we reach out so early to people now, because we have a team right here in town that can help with just about anything you're going through. What's been the toughest thing for you guys so far?
Got it. All right, so let me ask you this. Since I obviously didn't call them right back, I'll call today in the 4 to 6 time block. I'll run through the whole list again. Except for the people that said, you know, I'm going to be living here. I'm not selling anything. The same script. Hey, this is John. I sent you a letter last week. I'm just following up to make sure you got it and make sure you understand why I sent it to you. The same exact script or a different script now?
How about hello? Hi. Well, let's jump into it, John. So, ring, ring.
You're calling me? Hello?
Hi, is this John?
Yeah, this is John.
Hey, John, we talked briefly last week, and you very quickly said you didn't need my help. So I wanted to follow up, and after a conversation I just finished, it made me think of you. One of the families that told me 2 months ago they didn't need my help just called, and we had to put together a whole plan to help them clean up their mess and actually get things moving with the estate. We have a name in the office. We call that probate quicksand. You've probably never heard of that, but you will eventually. But it made me think of our conversation, and I feel like I'm doing a disservice to you if I don't at least know that you understand what we do. Have you got 3 minutes?
No. Yes. Yes.
But
okay,
I would
try
to re-engage that way. Tie it to someone else's situation and say, you know what? When I helped that family, you're the first person I thought of. I thought, you know, what if he does need help, and I don't call him back.
Okay,
all right.
Fair enough. A little different. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, John. Next up is phone number ending in 9065. You're up next.
Hi, this is Reno, South Florida.
Hey, Reno.
Probate industry. In January, went through the tips from the trainer, the Ask the Experts, the Fast Track. I've got a lot of notes on a lot of stuff. I've done some investing on properties. I'm not a real estate agent yet, but I'll be getting that. And one of the things that seems kind of complex to me is to be able to do the single appointment to close for a purchase sale agreement. How bad would it be if I simply try to take it, maybe break it down into more bite-sized chunks where I meet with them, I go over some of the options, I talk to them about the different options for what they can do with the property, or find out what their issues that they're facing are and try to help them. I've already got lined up a whole bunch of partners, and I'm working on a lot more. What are your thoughts?
You're saying, what about not doing a one-stop listing appointment?
Well, I feel it might be kind of overwhelming for me to try to do everything in one appointment to try to close on.
Well, let's break it down. Let's make a molehill out of this mountain. What does an acquisition appointment consist of? What are the parts? So introduction, introduction, rapport building, property tour, presentation, commitment. Like, I just made that up, but those are really the 5 pieces, right? That everything can fit into one of those 5 categories. So if you show up, you build rapport, you take a property tour, which you're doing your own construction estimates based on your knowledge and your experience. You get back to the kitchen table. You get back to the kitchen table or counter. You find out what their motivating factors are, what their target date is, and then you suggest whether it's a listing or a purchase agreement. You say, okay, well, based on everything we've talked about, it seems like X is your best course of action here. To hit your target date, we would need to get started today, and here's the right paperwork, and then hand them a blue pen. If you're comfortable with your market analysis as far as valuing assets, and you're comfortable with estimating roughly construction costs, like repair costs.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, it's it, man. It's really simple. Like, there's no need to have to come back.
Okay. What do you do if they give you an objection, which I believe would probably be common? I want to think about it. How do you handle that?
Okay, well, sure. That's what most of our folks say, but what they find is they're really something else is bothering. So you can take all the time you want to think about it. I'd rather understand what your apprehension is. So what do you feel like is the number one thing keeping you from doing this today versus 2 months from now?
Okay, then you'll find out the objection and you can try to overcome it.
And it's most likely a price objection. And if that's the case, then you can pull out your market analysis and your net sheet and say, okay, so let's look at this. This is the absolute top dollar for this house. That's why it says retail. Now, based on everything you've told me, you don't have the time or the money to do this. Would you agree? Get the affirmation, get them to shake their head, make eye contact with each one of them, and make a kind of a dramatic move and strike through it with your pen and say, well, that's off the table. And then go to as is and do the same thing. And when you do that, like, they're going to realize you have a visual tool. The net sheet is there for that. And they're going to realize this is the only option. And you show them, the reason I'm offering you this number is because I have to take this amount of capital risk and this amount of time to get this number. Does that make sense? Get the affirmation. Get them to all shake their heads. And then hand the blue pen over.
Okay, I could do that. I know how to do the net sheet. I know how to do the other. One last quick thing. I've listened to a lot of your stuff. And when do I ask about if there's a surviving spouse? Or will it just come out from them if I ask the right open-ended questions in the beginning? Because a lot
of times you'll find out. I mean, a lot of times you can tell through deduction. You look at the first and last name of the PR and the deceased, and they have matching addresses. That's pretty much a surviving spouse.
Okay.
So a lot of times you'll know before you pick up the phone. But when you that's how you can have a softer approach from the very beginning. If you're already in a conversation, oftentimes I'll say, well, it was my husband. We owned a house together, and I'm going to stay here. Don't take that as a hard objection. Take that as this is a 2-month follow-up or a 3-month follow-up. Because oftentimes those are the people that need our help the most when the grass starts growing and, the landscaping bills pile up, or if it coming into winter, even heating bills, utility bills shoot up, because chances are their income has been cut in half and their the physical requirements of living alone, living have doubled because now they're alone. So laundry, dishes, maintenance, cleaning, everything falls on them or whoever's helping them. So a lot of surviving spouses don't realize in the moment that they're not capable of continuing either financially or physically. It might take them a month or 2 or 3, but when they do realize that they need to move on and they need to sell this house either for financial reasons or physical reasons, if you have taken a soft approach, tried everything you can to find a way to help them, even if that's making sure they have a will or an estate plan so they don't have to go through this, or so their family doesn't have to go through this for them. Just any way that you can find to help them, then they'll remember that. And when the time comes, you'll get a phone call and they'll be ready to sign paperwork, and you'll be shocked. You'll be like, oh, have we talked? It's like you'll forget about it. But a lot of those surviving spouse like deals, acquisitions and listings come, 4, 5, 6 months after they told you they didn't need any help and they would never sell.
All right, perfect. Next up is phone number ending in 4027. You're up next.
Yes, this is John from Tennessee.
Hey, John.
And I'm like the previous John. I just got my first list of leads, and I just got through all of them. It was 40. And everyone was pretty nice. I had one fellow that he listened to my spiel, and then he says, "I'm going to hang up now." And that's the only one I had that was really a hang up. Most of them engaged and talked to me, but a lot of them had already been sold, a lot of them already listed, and a lot of numbers that I called, I had to leave a message. And my question is, how often, or should I call back on that same number? And also there's numbers of, people's names, different names listed in there below the representatives. Are those people that I should be calling as well?
Yeah, we'll start with voicemail, and if you want a longer form of this and the actual voicemail script, if you go to alltheleads.com, in the top right, you'll see a global search bar. Put in voicemail, and you'll see a tips from the trainer post on, I think the name of it was, should you leave voicemails when prospecting probate, I believe is the post title. But that's a longer video. As far as voicemail, you've got to look at your call frequency. So if you're calling every day, you shouldn't leave a voicemail more than one of those call attempts. If you're only calling once a month, you should leave a voicemail every time you call. I think probably, for me, the reasonable limit would be leave a voicemail every other week. Even if you're calling 7 times during the week, only leave a voicemail once, because what you don't want to do is, they may have every intention of calling you. They got your letter, they went to your website, they checked you out, they think that you're very credible and professional. They're just not ready. And if you put 14 voicemails back to back in their voicemail box, they're going to write you off, right? So if you're more aggressive in your frequency, just be aware that it's however many voicemails you would think is too much in your inbox, they do too. Yeah. And then the second part of your question, so yes, we had a little bit of talk about this in the Facebook group this week. So when you export your list, you'll see phone number 1 through 5. Phone number slot 1 is reserved for those rare occasions where we find it on public record. Slots number 2 through 5 are from our proprietary system, so we have an augmentation that will go find those numbers. Now, if we can't find a number for the personal representative, we can use his data match points and find people close to him, his wife, his office number, sometimes it might be an old cell phone number that's no longer his, but if we can find a double match point and match 2 points of data back to him, then we'll return that. So you should call those numbers. They're more often than not, they are, directly, no more than 1 degree away from the person. So it could be, their spouse or their sister. So definitely call those numbers. Yeah, and, when you're calling those, let's say you're trying to reach John Doe and you see Mary Doe. Well, the change there is, hey, excuse me. So ring, hello. Hi, is this Mary? This is Mary. Who's this? Hey, Mary, my name's John. I was trying to reach John Doe. My assistant was able to find your number, and it looks like you guys might be related. Do you mind sharing John's cell phone? And see if that'll work. But you can enter the most common response is, well, what are you calling about? Then don't go too deep with this person because they're not the PR, but introduce them and say, oh, actually, I'm calling because, we have a team of people here in Roanoke that help families going through probate. And as part of that, we go visit the probate clerk once a month and find out who we should be reaching out to. And that's what I'm doing. I just want to let you guys know that there is a service here in the community that can help with just about anything that you can encounter. Would John mind if I called him today? Great. Can I get that number?
Yes. I've actually done that with a couple of them. I've gotten, and they've been really nice and give me the number of Like the one guy, he said, so-and-so works nights, and here's her cell phone number. You'll have to call during the she works at night. So that was nice.
Yeah.
You know, people actually did that for me. Okay.
Yeah, but definitely keep calling them. You can leave a voicemail if you know for a fact it's not the PR. Just leave a voicemail and say, hey, this is John. I'm trying to reach John Doe, and my assistant found your number, and I think that you might be able to help me. Could you please call me back?
Right.
And in that case, you don't say why you're calling. You keep it really brief on the voicemail.
Right. Keep it brief. Yep. And one other thing, when I do talk to someone and they've already got it listed, you know, I use the suggestion that you made, you know, well, is there any other real estate needs that I can help you with? And I always leave it at that. And then I ask them, you know, did you get my card in the mail? I sent a postcard. I didn't send a letter to the representative, but I said, did you get my postcard? If so, would you keep it handy and give me a call if you need anything in the real estate?
I want you to try something else the next time you find one of those.
Okay.
The next time, when you find one that's listed, congratulate them on dealing with the hardest part up front, and go with something like, oh, okay, well, listen, I'm really glad to hear that. That's most families struggle for 2 or 3 months to even get to a point where they're ready to do that. So kudos to you guys. It sounds like you're progressing well. How's it? Have you hadn't had any showings or offers yet? And feel out what that listing feels like to them. Because in my market, what got me into this, 77% over a 12-month back test when I first moved here, 77% of listings with probate keywords in them had expired. And it was because they were just listing with Mary Sue from church, and Mary Sue would just arbitrarily throw a price on it, and she did 1 or 2 deals a year, didn't really have a price strategy, didn't really have a marketing strategy, and that house would sit there for 6 months, and then it would expire. After the family had lost thousands of dollars, left all the personal property in it, nothing had been done, they didn't have any real leadership. So if you can feel them out and see how the listing is going, if there aren't showings and there aren't offers, that's a prime follow-up. So you need to mark them for follow-up, you know, and go in MLS, see what the expiration date is, and you damn well better be calling at 7 o'clock that morning when that thing expires, because you know 94 other people will be there at 7:15.
Yeah. Yep. And that's another thing. I've tried to look in the MLS to see, you know, the address of the deceased to find out if they actually are telling me the truth, that they've listed it or sold it or whatever. And I've only found, I think, 1 or 2 properties that actually, you know, that they were listing it or they had already sold it. So I don't know if there was, I don't know how to verify whether.
So I'm gonna leave a lot of curiosity in the air here. In the next month, you'll have a tool you'll know before you pick up the phone.
All right, I like that.
How's that for a teaser? All right. Next up is phone number ending in 0878. You're up next.
Good afternoon, guys and gals.
Hey.
There. Hey there. Colin, yeah, one's a comment, I guess, and a question. So I sent my letters out, I guess 2 or 3 of them have been delivered, and I got a call from a person just letting me know that sort of to take them off the list because the property had been sold. I was just interested to have a conversation with this person. She said her family member had sold the property in prior year before she'd even taken ill, so there was no property there. But I was just interested to hear the number of, I got into a conversation about the number of letters or postcards that had been received related to property or the decedent and related to purchasing a property. So she said between about 8 and 14 they had received, and so I tried to figure out why specifically she called me, and she hadn't called all of them back, but I guess it was just maybe because the nature of the letter. So that was interesting, and also to get a feel for what you're up against, other, your competition in terms of mailings that are going to be received. So that was one comment, and that was separate. But I also got another call this week, last week, for a person who had she received the letter. She was very adamant about what she wanted. She wanted to get a cash offer. She said, I want you to come out. We talked and sort of built a rapport. She didn't want any other assistance with any other services at this time. She was just interested in the cash offer. So, but she had one caveat. She said, when we meet, and she said, all I ask, and I could tell she's been bombarded by calls, is she said that you do not press me and follow up about when I'm going to make a decision. She says she's just sort of trying to get a feel. So I agreed to that as a way to go out. So I go out on the appointment. And of course, I'm trying to build rapport, but in talking to her, I could sense she was overwhelmed. And so what I did was, and I'm not sure why I did this, but I turned the lens from trying to actually be the person that would make her a cash offer to more of a consultant and providing information about what those cash offers would look like. I provided her data on who the major players are in my market that you'll probably be receiving, possibility of offers from, and then down to the mom and pops and how the mom and pops will maybe be wholesaling the property. So, and then we walked the property, and I presented to her just based on what I saw, that this property you'll probably generate more proceeds from the sale if you either list it as is because it's in fairly good condition, or I have in my market a company that will come in and do repairs to update and get paid at the table. And so I provided that as a third solution. And we sort of left the conversation there in terms of the property. We got more into conversations about what she's going through, sort of tugging forth with her sister who's not really helping in the process because she has little kids. So it seems that she needed more help. She just wasn't willing to admit it at this time, but I could tell she was slightly overwhelmed. But I didn't push on it because that's what she said she only wanted. But I did offer her to, along the way, tell her that in any of these instances, I have a team that can come out and move all of the remaining furniture out, or we leave it here, just whatever she wanted, but she stuck to just the cash offer. So my question was, I guess, I don't know if I approached it the right way, because I did follow up, send her a letter to recap everything we had discussed in terms of what to expect with cash offers that may be giving her a call, because she said she's gotten other calls. She was irritated that someone had called her at 8 o'clock at night, and I just told her, well, they may even show up to your house, so don't be surprised. But then I'll kind of walk through her each step of making it an as-is sale, how I listed, me and my team would list the property because I'm a realtor, and then also providing the updated renovations with the company and being sort of project manager to that. And I sent that all in a letter, and then also at the end said if she does decide to go with the cash offer, because I'm also an investor, that I'd like the opportunity to present an offer to her as well if she decides she doesn't want to procure any of my services, but is just strictly looking for a cash offer. And I left it at that.
So, great detail. You get an A- because you didn't get any paperwork signed, but good job. I have one question for you. Why does she want a cash offer? What's her motivation?
So just to be done with it, I can tell she's rather overwhelmed. She had her son.
Spend the money on more specifically? What is the money going to go toward? If it's this urgent, how much does she need, and what will she do with it?
So I got the idea that it's just for the totality, the finality of it, because she kept on talking about, well, if we list it, it's going to be this cost. You're going to have to pay closing costs, and by the time you pay the realtor and the closing costs, you might as well just give a cash offer. So that was the motivation. From what I could tell from the research is that from the time her mom bought the property, she can't sell it for a cash offer, but I'd asked the question, but from what I can tell, unless the house was paid off the house was only bought 7 years ago. So it was conventionally financed. So I don't think that she even realizes that she can accept the cash offer.
You're saying it has an outstanding mortgage on it?
Yeah, it does. It does. From when I looked at when it was purchased, the closing, when I looked in the system, I thought it was a conventional loan, unless the mom came into like $250,000. I don't think unless it was paid off through the life insurance already, if there was any, I don't see that she could accept the cash offer.
Okay. Well, you did a good job, like, setting it up and presenting the as-is. Did you define what as-is means to you so she could understand that?
Yes. I told her we would simply come in, we would take the boxes and move the furniture out or put it in storage. There won't be any work done to the property because she mentioned maybe a roof, some roof repairs or something in the ceiling that has being repaired. She was just concerned about interacting with what the buyer may want and what she would have to in terms of give and take. So I'd assured her that my goal in that is to take. I understand your time is precious. You would leave all of that to us, and we would handle that. You would only be concerned with be discussing offers to review and signing paperwork. You would leave everything else to me and my team to handle, and that's the benefit of working with me and my team.
Okay, we're past 2 o'clock, so I want to wrap up. You did a great job turning the conversation to the people, not and away from the real estate. So keep doing that. The reason they called you was because your letter is different. The reason they engaged with you is because the conversation was going different, and they felt safer with you. That's why she's sharing so many details. I think that it's hard to tell without being there, but presenting the as-is was a good thing. I think you could have done a better job explaining understanding what the root of her objections, which is what the investors have been telling her. You don't want to do it with a realtor. They're going to charge you a commission. It's going to take forever. The buyers are going to be coming in here invading your privacy. You're going to have to look at all these offers and get into multiple offers. There's a bunch of stuff, anything they can do to shine a bad light on the brokerage service. You're focused on the person and saying that you're taking a consultant role. That's exactly the angle to take on this. Because it is encumbered. It has a loan on it. We can't really offer owner financing. You could have. The reason I started asking these questions in the beginning is if there's equity in the home, if it was free and clear, you could get her cash up front and then get her way more money over time if you can turn her into an owner finance seller. The reason I wanted to suggest that is because it greatly differentiates you from any wholesaler, any flipper, any iBuyer. If you say, well, help me understand how much cash you need and what you need it for, because I think I have an idea to get you more of a retail price without the retail sales environment. So you won't have to go through all the things you're worried about, but you can make a lot more money. So how much money do you need right now in the next 30 days, and what is that for? And then get her talking. Get her to tell you exactly what the money's for, what pressure she has, what's motivating her. And in a lot of those cases, an owner finance deal is really what's in their best interest. You can get paid the same commission if you broker it, or you can step in the middle as an investor and take an option fee or take part of the down payment as a fee for service, a consulting fee. But you can solve, you can give her time, you can give her more money if she has more time. That's not a good suggestion in this case because there was a mortgage on the property, unless it was a surviving spouse and it had a transfer on death clause, then you could do it. But laying the options out there really differentiates you from the other people. And the only thing I would say is to be stronger at the end of that. When you laid that out, you should have a net sheet in front of you with the scenarios you're discussing. And you can say, this is the retail price that we could get for it, but it's going to require time and money. And based on our conversation so far, I don't think that's a good fit for you. Would you agree? Get the affirmation, strike it out. Now, this is as is, where is. Now, a lot of sellers are at first, they reject this because they think that realtors make things complicated. But what I'm telling you, in my definition of as is, where is, this is we list the house, we accept no contingencies. Oftentimes, these will go as a cash offer to a landlord. They'll close in 15 to 30 days, so about the same time frame as what everyone else has been telling you. It doesn't have to take 6 months. We can close these just as fast as we can any other contract. I can have title done in 2 to 3 days. If you're really in a hurry, I can pull some favors at the title company. What's important here is we can get a 20 to 30% premium on the MLS because we're getting mass market exposure versus dealing with the few people who have been in your mailbox, those 8 to 14. And then there's a cash offer. And, you know, the reason you're getting this number, I'm assuming this is close to what you've talked to other people about, right? Is it higher or lower? Okay, and that's for your own information. But the reason you're getting that offer is because they have to risk the time and the money in order to get to this number over here that we've scratched out. They're willing to take that risk, and you're not able to. So you really have two options. You have an as-is, where-is sale, which can happen just as fast as any other offer, but you can get more money. Or you can go cash, and again, that'll be as-is, where-is with no contingencies. These two are really the same. So is it more important that you get more money, or that you sell to someone who's not a realtor? And then just be silent and watch her gears turn. Turn the contract around, slide it to her, and hand her a pen and say, what I think is in your best interest is to list this home as is, where is, because you're going to get more money and that's important to you, and it starts right here.
All right, that help?
Oh, that was great, Chad. You're like beat, man.
Go do it and come back next week and share your results. Guys,
Absolutely.
we went a little bit over. We had over 100 people on the call, and almost everybody stayed around till the end. I want to thank each and every one of you for showing up today. I want to particularly thank those that actively participated. And I want to challenge all of you, take one idea, one thought, one thing that inspired you on this call, go out and put it into practice and come back next week and share the results with the group. Make it a great week, guys. We will talk to you same time next Thursday. Take care.